Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser-known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway. Welcome back to Paris History, Avec, a Hemingway. I'm back with Claudine, and today we're talking about Henry IV, and it's actually the anniversary of his death today, so that's why Claudine chose Henry. But I'm sure you've heard the song. I'm sure you've heard a lot about Henry, but I'm going to have Claudine teach us a little more about his life today.
Yeah, Henry IV is one of those characters in French history that I just love, because I get to see him almost every single day when I walk towards the Louvre over there on Pont Neuf.
Your bestie.
And recently I was walking over there and I hear my name screamed from the Place Dauphine, and it was you.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh, it's funny. I had to bump into you randomly. And Paris is a village. It really is.
It is. I think that day you're the third person I just randomly ran into on the street. It happens all the time here. But Henry IV, I absolutely just love the history about him. And so because December, May 14th, 1610 is when he was killed. And while that seems like a weird thing for us to look back as like this anniversary, the leading up to it and the story around his death is rather interesting. But if I was a king of France, and it looked the week of this May 10th through the 14th, I would be a little worried that I just would maybe not leave my house, because the amount of kings that were killed or died in between May 10th and 14th is a little odd.
Oh man, that's weird.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit nerve-wracking. So Henry IV, he was born on December 13th, 1553. His mother, who we've also done an episode all about, was Jeanne d'Albert. She was the Queen of Navarre. Navarre there's nothing that's remains of what Navarre is, but it is basically kind of the Basque Country and northern Spain. Oh. So that was what was considered Navarre. And so when they were the kings, there was the King of Navarre and the King of France. And then because of Henry, those two would meld together and be known. And a lot of times you'll actually see, when it says like Louis XIV, they'll see the King of France and King of Navarre.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah. So Jeanne d'Albert, she married her second husband, was Antoine de Bourbon. He was born in 1518. He died in 1572. And he was the first monarch of the Bourbon dynasty. And that's going to be kind of important, because the dynasty before that ended with Henry III. And this is also where it's going to get confusing, because there's Henry III of France. Henry IV was technically Henry III of Navarre.
Okay.
When he became King of France, he became Henry IV.
Very confusing. Thank you.
Everybody get out a piece of paper.
Make a diagram.
Making some diagrams. But because he was the first monarch of the Bourbon dynasty, so that also will play an important role. But his mother, Jeanne d'Albert, she was a leader of the Huguenots. She, over time, decided, and she signed this treaty with Catherine de Medici, who we've done a whole episode about. Catherine de Medici decided to link her daughter, Marguerite de Valois. They were the end of the Valois dynasty. She said that she would marry her to Henry if he promised not to try to convert her to becoming a Protestant, and that the wedding had to take place by August 18th, 1572.
I love the qualifications for marriage back then.
Yeah. So that's it. I know you guys have never seen each other. You don't know what you look like. You don't know if you're even going to like each other, but
But don't do
But
it.
hey, these things must happen. But date is very important because if you remember from the Catherine de Medici episode, which we did like 2.5 years ago, as we're almost coming up between this episode and next week's is our 3-year anniversary.
Feels like yesterday.
I know it feels like yesterday. But we already came out of our terrible twos, I guess it was. But so they had to get married on the parve of Notre Dame. So in front of it, because he couldn't go into Notre Dame because he wasn't Catholic.
Ah.
So, poor guy had to schlep over there and get married out there on the cobblestones in front of Notre Dame. But they had it set up where there was like a huge stage. And, it wasn't just like you're walking out there getting married on the sidewalk.
I mean, it was still a thing,
It was still very, very fancy.
Yeah.
So Catherine, had told her, and Catherine, if you remember, there's the two Medicis. There's Catherine de Medici and Marie de Medici. Catherine is the one that liked to kill people and poison them.
Good
and
way.
Marie was the bad mother. So Catherine had this, she said this is when they had to get married by. So she, in this process, had said at one point she wanted to get a gift for Jean. And so she told her to go to her glove maker and go get a pair of these, custom leather, beautiful gloves made. Well, back then, because people were stinky because they didn't bathe, that's where like the gloves, and because of it, the tie to the perfume industry back in the 14th, 15th, 16th century is because they perfumed the gloves to help cover their stench.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. It's kind of like the smell of patchouli, which I cannot stand. I wish people would wear something to cover that.
Cover that nice smell that most people find a nice
It's like, oh, that smell kills me every time. But so she goes to buy these gloves. Well, she buys these gloves, and a few days later, on June 9th, 1572, Jean d'Albert dies.
What?
Yeah. So Catherine most likely killed her, but because she was in charge of the Huguenots, the Protestants.
I never even thought about that.
So, and here's more, this is turning into a true crime episode.
Seriously.
So then, and we'll reference on my website, I'll put the link to the episode we did about Catherine.
Yes.
But because on August 24th, just 6 days after the wedding at midnight from the Louvre, next door to the Louvre at the Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois church, at midnight, the bells rang, and that was the sign for the Catholic army in Paris to go into all of these hotels and lavish homes and go in there and pull the Protestants out of their bed and kill them.
What the heck? What's going on?
So they ended up they say that the Seine actually ran red.
Wow.
Because of how thousands of Protestants were killed.
How do people not believe in ghosts in this city?
Exactly. Well, I mean, everything is everything, and thanks now probably have a nightmare tonight. And I know there was like a very famous playwright that lived in my building. Maybe he'll come to me in my dreams and tell me that story. But so she was the one, she and her son, Charles IX, who was kind of this pitiful little guy. So she was the one pulling all the strings of that. Basically, they killed thousands and thousands of people.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I mean, just horrendous.
Yeah, horrendous. And there was and this podcast episode isn't even about Catherine, but there was there was a TV on the Stars channel called The Serpent Queen, and it's about Catherine. And I finally watched it, which I have a big issue with those kinds of things, because then I watch it and I know the history. I'm like, that's not the way it was. But they try to make her look more sympathetic. And I'm like, nope, she was still horrible.
Yeah, we're giving you no sympathy, you're a monster.
Yeah, she was a monster. But so that was why it was very specific that they had to get married by August 18th. Because on August 24th, they had this whole plan to kill all these Protestants.
Yikes.
So Henry IV, and I'll just refer to him as Henry IV so we don't get confused. Henry IV was a descendant of Louis IX. So after Francis II, who was the last son of Catherine de Medici, he died while his brother, the Henry III, was still king. So they had no descendants. All of her other boys, the first son, Francis, the first who was married to Mary, Queen of Scots, he died. They didn't have any children. And then all of her other boys became king, and they died pretty young as well. So they didn't have any kids. So it was either going to go to the Guise or it was going to go to the Navarre side. And so because Henry IV was a descendant of Louis IX, Saint Louis, he ended up, that's why they were like, well, they're going to be the heir apparent to the throne of France.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah. So when Francis II died in 1584, then at that point, Henry III of Navarre became Henry IV, King of France.
Now it's all adding up. What a circle. I mean, I do need a diagram. I should be mapping this out.
I know. And I'm sure that it actually, I was going to say, if anybody knows of some sort of computer program where I could do this and then put it, but don't, because I already can't get enough of my things done.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
There's a program, I go on some rabbit hole making diagrams of, family histories. But Henry III had been killed. He was actually assassinated by a Dominican friar, Jacques Clement. And so he was killed. And so then Henry IV ends up becoming King of France. He was coronated in Chartres, which is the cathedral that is, south of Paris, southwest of Paris, on February 27th, 1594, because he wasn't Catholic, and where the kings were normally crowned in Reims, they decided that they couldn't go there to do it.
He was running into a lot of issues with that.
He was ran into a lot of issues, but don't worry, on July 25th, 1593, due to the urging of his love, Gabrielle d'Estrées, who we've also done an episode about, he converted over to Catholicism because they had all of these religious wars over time. I mean, we could still look at history, present day history now, and there's still wars because of religion. But he did change over and he became a Catholic. And his very famous saying was, Paris is worth a mass.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most famous things he's famous for, besides how he died.
Exactly. Yeah, before how he died. And also that he had quite the way with the ladies.
He was a ladies' man.
Yeah, he was the Guerre Vaillant, which is because and if you see him, like, I'll post pictures on the website and talk about some stuff in the Louvre that you can see. There's one painting that I love and always show people. Nobody seems to be as enamored as I am about this. And I think they think I'm a weirdo.
I mean, I think we can say that about a lot of things you're enamored with, Claudine, and we love and respect you for it.
I know. I do love. I mean, who else loves dead people more than most people? But Gabrielle d'Estrées, she was Henry and Marguerite de Valois, the daughter of Catherine, they'd been married for 20 years at this point, and she was not getting pregnant. She was not pregnant at all. She wasn't losing the baby. She just was not getting pregnant. And so the whole job of that woman is to be an heir to give an heir to the throne. So he went to the Pope to go and get it annulled. So while he was working on that, he ended up meeting in November of 1590. He met a woman named Gabrielle d'Estrées, and he actually had a relationship with her cousin first. That was the nun of the abbess that's not far from where you lived, where it used to be. And so she ended up falling in love with Henri. They had 3 children together, which he later legitimized. They were going to get married on Easter Day, 1599. She came to Paris from Fontainebleau a few days before. And when she was here, she ate, they say that she had eaten a preserved lemon for dessert.
Weird,
and then a few days later, she died.
Oh, man, what a story. I love the nun story, too. That just is my favorite.
I know. I love that the fact that they were called what did they call them? The whores on the hill.
Oh, my gosh.
The nuns. And I was like, I think apparently changed a lot of the church since then. I don't think the nuns could cavort with men.
Yeah, I think we need to make that a t-shirt.
The whores on the hill. Yeah, you could sell it in their plastic death.
We got merch coming, guys. We have merchandise.
Yeah, that would be good. But so they ended up that she died, and she was pregnant with their 4th child, very pregnant, and her death was horrible. And we'll link it to that last episode. It's really sad. But another very famous painting in the Louvre is of her. And my favorite painting of Henri, he's kind of like the way the curator set it up. It's amazing because he's kind of looking towards the painting of her in the
Yeah.
Louvre.
Yeah.
It's
That's
very sweet.
beautiful. Yeah.
So on August 8, in August 1593, the first of 11 attempted assassinations of Henry happened. We'll say that there was 11 because
11. Wow.
number 11 was the one that did the trick. He ended up, because he needed an heir, the Medici family had said, if you marry our Marie de Medici, we will wipe out this, 1 million euro, franc, whatever it was back then, massive debt that France had with the Medici banking family. And we'll also pay you like 600,000 pieces of gold.
Man, that's some deal.
I know. Take her.
They really did not want her.
Yeah. Well, and it was also because that, as we've talked about a million times, those marriages back then were about power and control and land and property and, money and everything. So it was their way of then, France owing them money is one thing, but now that they have this person inside, that gives them even more of a leg up.
Yeah.
And
the
so,
romance. So much romance.
yeah. So in March of 1600, the contract was signed. And on October 5th, 1600, Marie de Medici married Henry IV by proxy in Florence, but he wasn't there. She actually ended up marrying. It depends on what you read. Either it was her uncle stood in or a representative of Henry IV. The painting that's in the Louvre is it of her uncle. And I've literally read both versions in every piece of, literature history I've ever read.
Once again, the romance continues.
Exactly. Who knows? She married her uncle.
Yum.
Which wasn't a weird thing back then.
Yeah.
And so she left, and on November 3rd, she arrived in Marseille. On December 3rd, she made it to Lyon. When she was in Lyon, she had to wait till December 9th when she finally got to meet him because the very galant Henri IV was busy with one of his ladies for 6 days.
As usual.
I know. And so they finally got to meet. And on September 27th, 1601, Louis the 13th was born.
It was about damn time some babies were coming around.
I know. So it was about time. And so that was the first of 6 children. So she did her job.
Yeah.
So on May 13th, 1610, so 9 years after Louis is born, 10 years after they're married, she was finally coronated. And back in history, the queens were never coronated at the same time as the kings, like old Chuck and Camilla. And so recently, which will be on Team Diana for the rest of my life. So we're not going to do an episode about Camilla. But so back then, and also when she married him, he was already king. So she asked for 9 years, like, when am I going to be coronated? When am I going to be coronated? Because Marie de Medici, of course, who wouldn't want to be coronated queen?
Yeah.
So
also 9 years, that's really long.
Yeah. So on May 13th, 1610, so on this date that we're recording this is the anniversary of her coronation. He finally set the date because he did it finally before he was planning to leave for the War of the Juillet Clair. And so he just kept putting it off because, there's always some conflict or war religion, he doesn't have time for that. So they go to the Basilique Saint-Denis, which is where the women were already crowned, and have their coronation. The next day, on May 14th, 1610, they're living at the Louvre. It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. He leaves the Louvre and he's on his way to go towards the end of Ile Saint-Louis to the Arsenal area. And he is in his carriage and they're going down the Rue Saint-Honoré and they change to the Rue de la Fer-Honoré. And while he's there, their carriage gets stuck behind two carriages one was carrying hay, the other one was carrying barrels of wine. And this gentleman named Francois Ravaillac, who was this religious zealot that was mad that he wasn't doing enough for the Catholics, he had taken a knife from a cafe earlier in the day. he had been contacting Henry for months because he kept getting these visions telling him he needed to kill the king. And he
Wow.
kept trying to get together and to tell this to the king. Well, of course, like, what does he call the switchboard? And say, I need to talk to the king. I had a dream I was supposed to kill him. I mean, he probably don't put you through.
Yeah.
So he gets there and he sees it and he takes like one step up on the wheel, the other step in the carriage, and he stabs him between the second and third rib and kills him.
Gosh, that's crazy with just like a lunch knife and he just
Yeah, with
hit
like
the right spot. I mean,
yeah,
wow.
but and I've seen like sketches because this is 1610, sketches of it and the carriage, I mean, we think of carriages as like once you saw, Queen Elizabeth in,
Mhm.
which is still has windows. But the sketch I saw of this was basically a lot more almost like he just was in this open top convertible.
Open top convertible. You think they would have kept the guy a little safer, you know?
I know now, now it's like the president goes by and he comes with like a motorcade of like, 30, motorcycle guys and ambulances and everything else. So you
Yeah.
probably don't want another Francois Ravaillac out there. Um, but so they instantly turned around. They took him back to the Louvre, but by the time he got to the Louvre, he was already dead. And this street, if you know where, in Leal and the Fontaine des Innocents, that which is right by Leal, there's a kind of covered arcade that you could walk through, and it's just right on the other side of that. So it's not far from the Louvre. I mean, this is, a 10-minute walk from the Louvre, maybe.
It's funny because I always thought that he died on Pont Neuf because his statue is there.
Yeah, well, and what's really cool is, well, I mean, horrible, but what's really cool is at the spot where he was killed, they put this huge slate with his coat of arms, and then it
Mhm.
says his name and the date on it.
So he's got like a little gravestone there.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. I'll have to keep
yeah.
an eye out.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. I'm Sunday I'm doing my live video from Paris. I'm basically going to start at the Louvre and walk through there and then go to Pont Neuf and kind of do the last moments of his life.
His last little trek there. Tune in,
His last,
guys. Don't forget to
which
tune
it's also kind of weird. Like I'm going to go and memorialize the moment that he
in.
died.
Yeah, it's like some dark tourism.
It is, but he is a really interesting character. But he was on his way. I mentioned to see his friend Maximilien de Baton, Duc de Sully. And the Sully, you might know, because the wing of the Louvre, there's three wings of the Louvre, the Denon, which is where Mona Lisa and everything is. The Richelieu, named after Cardinal Richelieu, which we just talked about last week. And the back is named after Sully.
Now we know where that name came from.
Yeah. So he was buddies. And here's another crazy thing. Sully and Henry IV have the same birthday.
What?
I'm not making this up. I'm not making it up.
Interesting. So much going on.
Yeah, so Francois Ravaillac ends up killing him. And of course, they immediately, tackle him to the ground. He wasn't trying to get away or anything. But he, had thought about doing this for quite some time. But he was arrested. He was taken to the Hotel de Retz in the third. He was in there for a few days and he was taken to the conciergerie and they went on to a trial that lasted 10 days. And on May 27th, 1610, at the Place de Grave, which is now the Place de Hotel de Ville, he was tortured. They threw oil and all this other stuff on him, tortured him. And then it gets worse because then they tied each of his limbs to a horse. So
Ugh.
4 horses.
Ugh.
And then set the horses go in the other direction.
Oh my gosh. The way they used to do things to people. Yikes.
Yeah. Well, it's called regicide because it's killing a king. It's called regicide.
Oh gosh, that needs to be a t-shirt too, guys. We got merch. We got merch.
Yeah, exactly. Regicide.
Actually, that could make a comeback considering how people feel about Macron right now.
Well, now have you seen those stickers and stuff? I see them around Paris all the time where it's basically Louis the 16th, like his whole coronation outfit, but with the head of Macron.
No, I haven't seen those. Oh my gosh.
They're like off with his head. And a friend of mine, a few months ago found somebody had graffiti on a wall and it said Macron equals Louis the 14th.
Oh man.
But it should be Louis the 16th because Louis the 14th is the Sun King that has ruled longer than any monarch in history. Like he ruled for over 74 years. And Louis the 16th is the one that lost his head.
I mean, come on, French people, get your history together.
I mean, so it's like you just said you hopefully you want the president to rule for 74 years.
I think someone didn't pay attention in French class.
I know, only a nerd, a history nerd like me.
Like, actually.
I know, actually, I just stand there all day. Actually, this is incorrect.
You are wrong. Just flat out.
But after Henry died, they made this whole wax-size effigy of him, and they placed it in the Louvre in the Salle de Caryatide. And he was the effigy of him laid on top of his casket where his body was below, and they had him dressed up in his coronation robes at first, and then it looked like he was in bed. And I'll post a drawing of this because I've seen this and I'm obsessed with it. But they would set up this room with like huge tables, and every day for lunch and dinner hundreds of people will come and sit there and have a meal with him.
That is the weirdest thing. I know this was like a common thing back then.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this in the past, but it still freaks me out just having a little dinner with the wax king, like very strange to me.
And his body underneath it.
Yeah, ew.
And they would change his clothes every day.
His wax clothes or his real clothes?
His real clothes.
That's weird. And
like on the wax effigy though.
Were they embalming people back then?
I don't know. I'm guessing so because I think they started doing, I mean, they had embalming techniques back at the time of the Egyptians with the mummies.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know. These are the questions. And I was like, where are these wax effigies? Who made these? He made one for Gabrielle d'Estrées when she died, and they did this for her too. And I was like, I can't, of course, I Google it and all I get is like Madame Tussauds.
Yeah.
But I can't. Yeah. But in the Carnavalet, so when that reopened, I went in there. They have a wax effigy of him. It's a bust of him, but it is not the one. But when I found it in there one day, and I'll put a picture on the website, I was freaking out because I was like, oh my God, for some reason, I imagine this wax effigy to be this like Jell-O-like consistency.
But it was
so
more
very
realistic.
weird.
Like it was like more real.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, it's hard. It's like hard plastic.
You're thinking like Jell-O King.
It looks like hard plastic. I was imagining it like, those crash dubbies that they do.
I want to see a picture. I've been in the Carnival a lot. I never saw it.
Yeah, it's in this case. And when I found it, like I was like, oh my gosh, that's one of them. But I don't know what's ever happened to the one that was in the Louvre. But it was, so when this happened, so Louis the 13th is 8.5 years old. And Louis the 13th at the time was over on the left bank, not far from me. He was on the Rue des Grands Augustins, and he was at the Order of the Knight of the Holy Spirit. And as soon as, his father is he's dead, they raced over there because now he's, next in line to the throne. So they went over there to get him. But because on May 13th, that Marie de Medici was crowned, it also legitimized her as the regent for France.
How lucky was it that they finally did it for her? I mean, what would have happened?
Yeah, and people were pretty suspicious of it because they were like, the timing of this is a little uncanny.
Yeah.
And also your distant cousin, Catherine, liked killing people.
Yeah, like yikes.
So it definitely was a little, people were pretty suspicious of it for a while. But, it just, and who wouldn't be?
Yeah, that is the timing. So if she did not finally get crowned right before he died, would the king the son just be direct king?
Well, she could still be regent because one time Francois Premier, when he was king, he went out of town and his sister was regent.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't really that, but it just helps legitimize that fact that now she's queen, because unlike in England where, Queen Elizabeth was queen, here that was never a role. A woman was never going to be the head of state.
Yeah. So it didn't really matter. You're just going to make babies.
Yeah. And you're a regent. So you're in charge of everything, but you're never looked at as the head of the country.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So on October 17th, 1610, he was consecrated in Reims over there in Champagne. But because he was 8.5, And the rule is that you cannot serve as king until you're 13 years old plus a day.
A day.
Which is still crazy. That's why she was regent. So she was regent, and she ended up marrying him off to Anne of Austria on October 18th, 1615. They were only 14 years old at the time.
Wow.
And she was so concerned about making sure that they, had sex the night of their wedding. Because this is a ceremony, Marie Antoinette, they all did this. People would be in the room watching to make sure that they actually have sex, because then it was like they can't annul the wedding now.
Oh my
So
God.
she did that. But Marie, when he reached 13 years old, she was like, nope, I don't think you're going to do this now. I think I need to stay. So it took until he was like 16 and a half years old. And it was only because there was a coup on April 24th, 1617. They killed Caccino Concini, who was her like right-hand person, this Italian that she brought over. They killed him and then had a coup with Cardinal Richelieu and ousted her and locked her away in the Chateau de Blois in the Loire Valley.
Wow.
Yeah. So their relationship, it was horrible. They would, a mediator would come, they'd get back together. She escaped in 1619. She came back to France by 1620. She thinks everything's calmed down a little. So I'm going to now throw everything into a civil war because I want to try to get rid of them again. And so he would go lock her mother up again. She would, a mediator would get them together. It was just this thing that went on and on. In 1631 in July, she left because her son said, oh, you should go away to the Chateau de Campagny. Just go away for a little bit. Well, it was a trap, because then he had her intercepted and basically stripped her of everything, like her title, all of her money, and all of her jewelry. And then she spent the next 10 years going around Europe trying to get support to still, like, Richelieu was like her nemesis. And then she ended up dying on July 3rd, 1642, of pleurisy, which is a disease, like an inflammation of the lining of the lungs. And then a few months after she died, Cardinal Richelieu died. And then not even a year after she died, her son Louis XIII died.
Wow. I mean, gosh. Also, like, just thinking about all these arranged, like, marriages, and 14, you have to have sex while your whole family watches, like the whole thing. Yikes. Eek.
It's so strange. But when Louis XIII died, he died on the same day as his father, 33 years to the day.
Whoa. Okay, that's strange.
Isn't that weird?
That's very strange.
Yeah. And it was like, who else? There was also Louis XIV was named King of France because, again, his father, Louis XIII, died. May 10th, it was like Louis VII. Like, it's just a bunch of really weird things. Like, if I was king between the 10th and the 14th of May, I just would be worried.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was, the patterns, very strange.
The patterns. But if you go into my favorite place, into the Louvre, on the second floor of the Richelieu wing is the 24 paintings in the life of Marie de Medici done by Rubens. And some of those stories I told you are depicted on the canvas. And it's one of my favorite rooms. And when I take people in there at the end of it, they have no idea that that's even there, because it's not a big top thing to see. And every time I take people in there, as I'll tell the story of each and every painting, they all say at the end that was their favorite part.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, guys, listen to that tip on your next trip. And then listen to the show again as you look at these paintings so you can remember everything. Yeah,
we need to do one where I actually just break down each and every painting.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't take any time at all.
Oh, that would just take like 3 episodes.
Well, I think Claudine's going to post all of this on her website. So check out ClaudineHemingway.com. Make sure you turn into her live tour today. She's going to be walking around doing a little dark tourism, retracing the steps of the king's last little trot around town. And make sure you guys tune in next week for more information. Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, ClaudineHemingway.com.